Alright guys, back here at Locals, and this time my boy Teague decided he wanted to show up and give me some challenge. And what did you do today?
We won with Rainbow Bardock out of the last year's anniversary box.
So the new anniversary box is about to be released on the 28th, and this is the leader that came from out of last year's. And tell us what he does, because this guy has a lot of effects.
Yeah, he's a wall of text. So on the front side, he has a permanent on both sides actually that reduce the combo cost of all multicolor black SS4 cards in your hand by 1. And then he negates the energy exhaust on them as well. And then on the front side, he gains 2k for every different color in your energy. That's a permanent, so it's on both players' turns, up to a maximum of 10k. Then when he swings, he gets to look at the top 5 for any black card with SS4 in its name. And then his Awaken is either at 3 or less life, or when you have 5 different, all the colors in your energy and or battle area, you can draw 2 cards and flip over. And he does not take life when he awakens, so if you hit those colors at 7 life, you can awaken at 7 life and be on your backside, which is also a wall of text. Same permanent. Auto, when he attacks, he gets different effects depending on the number of different colors you have. So for 2 or more, he gets 5k additional power, and then you get to choose a battle card your opponent has and rest it. 3 or more, you also get to untap an energy at the end of a turn. And then 4 or more, you draw a card and get to take a marker off of a Unison. So most people know this is a Unison killer deck because 1 attack from your leader on a Unison is automatically going to be 2 markers off of it. So that's the leader. And then
There's a lot of effects.
Yes. So to go through the cards, we've got the 3 drops, which we're going to do in pairs. So these both have the same effect, where when they're comboed, if there's a total of 3 or more energy between you and your opponent, you can tap a black energy to put them into play in rest mode. The Vegeta, when you do that, you get to bounce a 3-drop or less battle card. And then the Goku, when you do that, you get to negate the skills on a Unison card. The Goku doesn't come up too often because usually your opponent's already plus for Unison by the time it comes into play. The Vegeta is actually really good against KP because if they swing and free play their card, you can combo your Vegeta and bounce that card back to hand before it attacks. And then they both also have the same effect where you can pay a black, activate main, send them to your warp, and then play a 2-cost or less SS4 from your hand, and then at the start of your next turn, they come back to your hand. So initially it's just a trade-off, but they come back to your hand to continue to be used, which is very important to make sure you have Goku and Vegetas for some of the later plays.
And the Goku, the yellow one, it negates a Unison skill?
Yeah, it negates a Unison skill when it comes into play for the turn. So then our green cards, we've got the SS4 Gohans. So the 2-drop up here is a base double striker, and all of the 2-drops have an ability when they're charged and then an ability when they're played. So the Gohan, when he's charged, if you have at least 1 other multicolor energy, you get to take a marker off of a Unison that has 2 or more markers. So again, it's a Unison killer because you can just charge him and immediately take a marker off. And then his on play auto, he gets to warp a battle card 4 or less. And if you play them, you get both autos. So you get the energy auto as well as the on-play auto, because the energy auto also triggers when they're played. So he's great for killing Unisons and for helping keep boards clear of small battle cards. And then this one down here is your Floodgate. So if you have 3 or more black multicolor cards in your energy, he gets reduced to a 1-drop. And then he negates the attack and plays himself, and when he's played, you can discard any card, and your opponent can only attack X more number of times, where X is the number of colors in their energy. So for monocolored decks, they only get 1 more attack with Unison or battle cards. So,
which is crazy.
Yes, so if they swing lead with this first, like some decks like the new SS4 deck want to do, you negate with this, and then they only get 1 additional swing for the turn. So that's really good for shutting down turns and making sure you get to your late game. Next for the other 2-drops, so we've got 3 of the Goku and 3 of the Vegeta. So Goku is a blocker, and when he's charged, you get to negate the skills on a battle card 4 or less until the end of your opponent's next turn. The end of the opponent's turn part is really important because if there's a card you're not going to be able to deal with that has double strike or has some effect on swing, if nothing else, you can charge a Goku and then negate the skills through your opponent's turn so you don't have to worry about it. When he's played, he does that and then also switches a 4 or less to rest mode, and if it's a skillless card, it KOs it. So you play him, negate the skills, then switch it to rest mode and KO it because it's a skillless card. The Vegeta is base crit, and when he's charged, you get to randomly pick a card out of your opponent's hand, they bottom deck it, and draw a card. That effect's okay. Sometimes you will snipe an important card like a super combo or an SCR if you're really lucky, but most of the time it's more irrelevant than anything else. When he's played, you do get to draw 2 and then bottom deck 1, so he does get you a plus there, and then also just being crit is great for putting some pressure on, especially all of these cards are 16k. So it definitely makes them a little bit harder to combo out of sometimes, as well as to combo into if you're attacking. So yeah, both of these are good. Goku's better, usually just going into the energy. I do like to play the Vegeta off of the 3 drops because, again, the crit and the draw 2 is very nice. Next up for the red, we've got Bardock and Bardock. So the Bardock up here is a counterplay. He's basically a denial of hope, so if the battle card being played has 20,000 power or less, it goes to the drop instead, and then you play him. And if you have 2 or more black multicolor cards in your energy, you can take a life and reduce his cost by 1 black, so he becomes a 1-drop counterplay for anything 20k or less.
Anti-ready rumble.
Yes, and then also it's good for things like riposte. If you know your opponent's got a riposte that they're holding on to, you can keep it from coming into play, which is why, as you'll see, I don't actually play Black Super Kamehameha in the deck because he accomplishes the same goal while being in theme. It is really important. You want to make sure you have as many SS4 cards as possible because you don't want to whiff and you don't want your charges to get messed up if you're drawing too many monocolor black cards early. This Bardock down here has Barrier. He's the only card in the deck to have Barrier. And then he also has a permanent that if your leader card is Bardock Xeno, he reduces his cost in your hand by 1, so he's able to be played off of your other 3 drops. Then his auto, when he's charged, you get to minus a battle card by 2k, or battle card or Unison by 2k for every different color in your energy. So if you have all 5 colors, then you get to minus something by 10 when you charge them, basically. It's good for getting pesky small battle cards that sit on board off board, or making something a little bit easier to swing into and remove. And then he has an activate battle that doesn't come up too often because we hardly ever play him to the board, but he can -5 something on the activate battle. So, like I said, he hardly ever comes out, but when he does, he can be a little bit sticky since he has Barrier. And then next, the new card that really kind of pushed this deck into playability, in my mind, is the SS4 Gogeta Xeno.
This card is so good.
Yeah, this card does literally everything you could ask it to do in the deck. Previously, the deck had problems dealing with big battle cards, because as you may have noticed, everything with the small guys deals with the smaller cards. So this guy has Deflect, Double Strike, Auto when he's played. You get to choose 2 of your opponent's battle cards and give them minus 30k. Your opponent warps a card from hand, and then your leader gets plus 5k until the end of your opponent's turn. So it's a beam through your opponent's turn. And then he's got the activate main for 3. If you have 3 or more black or red Saiyans in your energy or battle area, you can play him. And of course, everything in this deck pretty much is a Saiyan that you're going to be charging, so you always have him on turn 3. So he's insane, not just because he applies that removal, he also applies large pressure, has deflect, so he's never going to get hit with God Sealing, and then he also gives you some extra protection going into your opponent's turn. And what's really nice with the leader, if you charge correctly, you charge your blue, green, and yellow cards on your first 3 turns. And when you play him on turn 3, and because he is red and black and your leader also checks battle areas, you can go ahead and awaken. and have all of your effects live for that turn. And you don't really care if he gets removed on your opponent's turn, because then when it comes back to you, you charge a red and you're good for the rest of the game. But that's really important for being able to get the Awakening a little bit earlier and a little bit more consistent.
And you try to play that guy every turn 3, basically.
Basically, yeah. I like to play him turn 3, turn 4, turn 5. If I don't have the big guy, literally as soon as you can play him, he's what you want to be playing. And it is also important to note that he is a 1+10k, but he's a multicolor, so your leader does reduce him down to a 0+10.
So you have 8 super combos.
Yeah, I'm playing 8 super combos in the deck. This makes it really good too against something like SS4 or Sin, where they may try to go high early, or with the Gogeta Ender swinging when you can't use non-super combo skills. He's a 0+10, so it makes it easier to get out of those swings if you have to.
The double strike crit from Sin.
Yeah, don't want to take that. So next up is the non-SS4 cards in the deck. So we've got 2 of the Master Roshi, Master Lee, Majesty. This is a card people have played for a while. He's okay. He's got his niche uses. When you combo with him, you get to pick up a multicolor card and then put back down a multicolor card in rest mode. So something like the Bardock, you can pick it up during the attack, put it down, and get the auto to neg your opponent's card. Or with the Gohan, for example, if they're swinging with a Unison that they gave something like Double Strike to, you can pick up the Gohan, put it down, take a marker off, and that'll remove the Double Strike, Triple Strike, whatever it is applied to the Unison. So he does have his uses, but not crazy.
It seems like if your opponent doesn't know it exists, they can play really hard into it.
Yeah, for sure.
There's nothing like dropping 2 of them when they change the game.
Next up is the Unison. So I play SS4 Prismatic Burst. This is the Unison that was actually printed with the deck. A lot of people play the 2-drop Bardock that lets you draw a card. I don't like that card because I usually want to do something else with my energy other than tapping out and then having it probably die on my opponent's turn. And this guy's actually crazy. So he's no specified, so you can play him for 1. And then he's got a permanent. He gets plus 5k for every marker on him during your turn. And then auto when he's played, if he has at least 1 or more marker, he gets an extra marker for every 2 different colors in your energy. So if you have all 4 set up, then he gets an extra 2 markers when you play him for 1. So he actually comes in for 3, which means he's a 1-drop 25k swinger. I've tapped as much as 4 or 5 energy just to have him come in as a 1-drop 40k swinger. It's actually crazy. And being a Unison, he's harder for your opponent to interact with, so I usually feel very safe doing that. His -1 is you get to choose an opponent's battle card that has an energy greater than their current and warp it, so cheap removal if nothing else. And then his -X actually came up a couple times tonight. So you can, when your opponent attacks, you can -X, and for every marker you remove, your leader gets plus 5k for that battle. So I think actually in the SS4 matchup tonight, I did this and -5 twice on 2 different turns. And
Only reason you got it.
just gave my leader plus 25k for the battle that mattered, just to make sure that he wasn't going to get comboed over. So crazy card. You only play 2 because you definitely don't want to clog on it early. I want to see this card usually turn 4 or later, and you can search it because it is an SS4 name.
Yep. Card is pretty solid.
Next up, we've got 2 SS4 calls. This just looks at the top 3, lets you grab up to 2 SS4 cards of SS4 under name. If you grab 2, you have to bottom deck a card from your hand. If you only grab 1, then you just bottom deck the other 2 cards you picked up. It's great for early filter. It helps you find your 8-drop Gogetas, which you always want to see by turn 3. So you like to have it, but you definitely don't want to clog on it because of the limit 1. So 2 seems to be the perfect number.
Card is beautiful.
Next up for the Negates, we just play 4 supporting the Dark Empire. This coupled with the Gohan is pretty much all the Negates you need in your main deck. It's just good to have that traditional blocker negate, especially since you can awaken early, and then once you get to 5 life, you can start using these if you need to. Also, because you untap 1 at the end of your turn, sometimes I'll leave 1 up, untap 1, and just hard cast this for 2 if I want to feel extra safe.
This deck got so much subtle support.
Yeah, it's been getting support kind of incrementally, and it's really built up to make the deck very good. So for the super combos, I go with a 3-1 split with 3 of the Vegeta, just tuck 1, draw 2 if you're at 4 or less life, and then 1 of the Kai that was printed with the deck. So she's a 0+1k, but when you combo with her, you draw a card, and then she gets an additional 2k power for every color in your energy. So she can actually be a 0+11, but also draws you a card. So if that card's comboable, then she equates to 16k of combo power. Just a nice card to have as a 1-of defensively. She is a limit 1, so I would never run more than 1 of her because you could only ever combo 1 of her per turn. But it's nice to have a 1-of for defense. Next up for the 1-ofs, we've got 1 SS4 Gogeta thwarting the Dark Empire.
I thought that was what you played on me earlier, and you played the next card.
Yeah, but this guy does come up all the time. So he's triple attack blocker. While he's in rest mode, he can't be KO'd. When he attacks once per turn, your opponent warps 2 battle cards from their board and 2 cards from their hand, and it ignores barrier. So this is a great way to get around barrier, which your deck can have a little bit of a problem with, and also just really put some pressure on your opponent in the late game. And he does play himself for 4 by warping a Goku and Vegeta Xeno from your drop. And it's not Union Fusion, so we don't actually have to be the same power level. It can just be any 2. But yeah, he's great as a 1-of, but not multicolor, so again, you don't want to clog. The card I played on you is the SS4 Prismatic Burst.
Card saved your butt.
Yeah, so this was printed kind of as the secret rare for the deck when it first came out in the Anniversary Box. So he's a 10-drop with Quadruple Strike. When he is played, you apply the following effects based on the colors. So for red, you deal a damage to your opponent automatically. If they're at 1 life, they just die. For blue, you get to draw 3 cards. Green, your opponent discards 2 cards. Yellow, you choose an opponent's card. Doesn't matter, it can be energy, leader card, whatever you want it to be. Switch it to rest mode. And then black, you warp 2 of their battle cards. You will always apply all of these effects because you're always going to have all those colors in your energy by turn 5. So this card is just insane when it hits. And its activate main, you pay 5, discard a Goku and a Vegeta from your hand or send them from your battle area and play him. So again, he's a 5-drop, but he is a 10-drop technically, so he is protected from things like Charismatic Villain. And when he comes out, it's usually just an insane swing. If the game doesn't end that turn, it usually ends shortly after. Just a crazy card to have. And again, he's searchable because he's SS4. For Overwhelm, we play 1 Beyond All Limits and 1 SS3 Thwarting. This has SS4 in the name, so he's searchable, which is why we go with him. Thwarting, honestly, I'm really thinking about cutting this card. Because you don't naturally send a lot of your cards to the warp in the early game, I have them in my hand in the early game all the time and then never end up actually using him. He's a 1-of, so I've kept him in for now, but I actually sided him out a couple games tonight, so yeah, he might come out, but they are Overwhelm options for you. And then, because we play the new SS4 Gogeta, we can actually play Heartfelt Plea now. So Heartfelt Plea just requires a red battle card with 25k or more power. So what I like to do on turn 3 is I will play out the Gogeta, swing with it, and then I will awaken, put the Gogeta to drop, and play the Heartfelt Plea for some extra pressure.
And it's Super Saiyan 4.
It is, but it's not searchable because it's not black. So I wish it had that synergy, but it doesn't. So when you do that, you lose the last effect on your leader swing for the turn. You won't get your draw. Or the Unison marker removal, but 9 times out of 10 it's worth it because you're just getting all the pressure from Heartfelt Plea. I haven't lost a game where I've triggered this, so yeah, it's Plea, it's good. And then for the SCR, we are playing the SS4 Vermilion Saiyans. Crazy card for the deck, so it's a 1-drop counterattack, does not actually negate the attack, but for every color between you and your opponent's energy, you get to warp a battle card ignoring barrier, so it can warp up to 5 battle cards, and then your leader gets plus 5k for the turn for every card warped. So theoretically, it's up to 25k for the turn, putting you at 40k base, or if you used the SS4 Gogeta, you'd be at 45k base. basically, if that happens, you're a baby hatch and you're not dying. It does have the activate main, where if you're at 4 more energy, you can play it for 1 and play up to 4 battle cards from your deck that are 2-drop or less with different names. That's good for kind of swarming, but none of them trigger when they're played from deck, only when they're played from hand. So you don't get the effects. I've never actually triggered the bottom one. I always just use it for the safety. It did save me in our game tonight. I used it to warp the Vegito's secret rare, as well as something else, and put my leader at a 25k base for return, which helped me to survive. So definitely the card for the deck, because it is SS4, so it is searchable. I saw this, I think, all but 1 game tonight because of how searchable it is. And then real quick for the Z deck, because that's a thing now. What's cool is because you're a rainbow deck, you can actually play a little bit of everything. So we played one of the Defender of Life. It is 2 specified red, so it doesn't usually come out often, but it is good just to be able to play it, burn that life potentially, and have a 20k double strike barrier that can swing. Frieza, again, doesn't come up often, but it can be a little bit of extra removal or hand control if you happen to have one of your Gohans on board. This Goku's never come up, but it is a 1-drop, and the thing with the 1-drops is you will always have the 1 energy, so they are going to be live if you have your Z energy available. These guys, you have to charge either 2 red or 2 green, which you really don't want to be doing until at least turn 5. Oolong, this card did come up several times tonight. It's crazy. It's just 1 yellow. You pay your Z energy, and then you can play him. And I copied the SS4 Gogeta tonight. I copied a Gohan Piccolo SCR tonight and swung for 40k with him to win the game. So this card is great in the deck because of how accessible it is. And then 2 Vegetas. It's just, you can take life if you are trying to get down to like super combo range. Or I did use it just to trigger a Trunks ability to get rested so that I could go ahead and play my bomb for the turn. So yeah, everything's utility. As we get more Z battle cards, I'm sure it will expand and this deck will get even better because of how much access it has to everything in the format.
Yeah, it has a lot of colors. It has just so much subtle support, like I said. Like, they just keep printing cards and like, oh, this card can go in that deck.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, absolutely. And just, again, the more Z deck cards we get, the more access to that utility you're going to have. And then I'm really hoping we get a green and black multicolor card soon, a second one. That's the only color that has not gotten additional support since the deck came out. So it should be coming up soon, hopefully.
They're probably going to put it in like a promo or something.
It needs to be a Broly, that's all I'm saying.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
An SS4 Broly.
That would make sense, to be honest, because green is Broly's one of those main things.
Exactly, yeah. But no, this deck is so much fun. It's super cheap, too, for the most part, because everything came in the anniversary box. If you pick up a couple of the Gogeta SRs, and you can play any other SCR like Heroine's Lineage, or even just play just additional copies of that Prismatic Burst. So if you're looking for a fun, cheap deck, this is great. And as we saw tonight, it can definitely win in the format if you know how to play it correctly and get a little bit lucky.
Appreciate the profile, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
All right, take care.